The worst kind of deception is the one that makes you doubt yourself. Hi friends, welcome to my channel. I always believed that being in a relationship meant trusting your partner, because without trust, there is no relationship. I also believed that no one is perfect, and that love was about effort, making it through rough patches together, growing together, and learning from our mistakes. We'd been together for 6 years, and I thought we were building something real. One day, out of the blue, I got a Facebook friend request. She looked familiar. I believe she tried to add me as a friend a few times in fact, but I don't accept friend requests from strangers. However, this time she used a new profile picture. Her new photo was of her with a guy who looked all too familiar, my boyfriend. So curiosity got the better of me. I accepted the request, and once I did, I had access to all her photos and albums, and I saw pictures of him with her, snapshots from her graduation, images of them traveling together to different places. I hesitated. I was confused. At one point, I even wondered, is this him, or is this just someone who looks a lot like him? It must have been around 6 o'clock when I decided to call him. He answered, saying he was driving home and would be there soon. He mentioned he'd come home early today, something unusual since he typically didn't get home until 9 or 10. So then I brought up Anna. He brushed it off, saying, "Anna who?" I explained that she had added me on Facebook and that I saw his photos with her. To that, he replied, "Oh, she's just a stalker. I met her a few times before and somehow she kept trying to get close to me. Just ignore her." He assured me he'd be home soon. But instead of arriving early, he showed up at midnight. When he finally came home, he smiled happily at me and said, "I'm home. Did you say you wanted to talk to me?" I was annoyed. But here's the thing. He had told me he had a heart attack a few months back, and he said it was because I raised my voice at him during an argument. He told me the argument lasted for a few hours, that it exhausted him, and that it was my fault that he ended up getting a heart attack from it. So I didn't raise my voice. I simply said, "Didn't you say you'd be home soon? It's midnight already, so who is this woman?" He sighed and said, "First of all, as you know, you gave me a heart attack months ago, and that was your fault." I frowned. "Excuse me, when a couple is in a relationship, you can't blame me for you having a heart attack when we were trying to work through our issues together. No, that was entirely your fault. And forever, I will still maintain that it is your fault. Don't try to convince me otherwise. You'll never change my mind. And now regarding Anna, as you know, you've been neglecting me, abandoning me, and that's why I needed a friend in the first place. And Anna is my friend." So we talked for 2 hours. All the while, I was conscious of his so-called heart attack. So by 2 a.m., I told him he should get some rest. Honestly, I was extremely unsatisfied with his 2-hour explanation. There were so many unanswered questions, so many things that didn't add up. I begged him to take the day off work so we could continue in the morning. He refused, saying he had something really important to do at work, but that we could meet at a coffee shop after his shift at 7 o'clock. So that's what we did. I barely slept a wink, I barely ate, but at least we had another 2-hour-long talk. He told me how lonely he felt, how I had neglected him after his mom passed away. He was diagnosed with depression and had been on medication. He said he had been all alone these last 2 years and that I hadn't given him enough support. Honestly, I was confused. I was distraught. I thought I had supported him all this time. I woke up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym before he woke up so I could be home when he started his day. I held him when he broke down in tears. His mom passed away on Valentine's Day, so instead of celebrating, I spent the last 2 years on that day with him doing charity work because he believed it honored her memory. I even gave up my dance class for almost a year because it was in the evening and I wanted to be home when he got back from work. But he did brought up the fact that in the weeks after his mother's passing, I spent a few days a week at my parents' house for family dinners. He told me that during those nights, he sat alone in the dark, staring into space, feeling completely abandoned. I was shocked. I had always asked him before staying for dinner. I always checked beforehand if it was okay, and every time he told me it was fine. By the end of the conversation, I was bawling. I truly believed I had failed him, that I was not a good person, not a good girlfriend, that I should have done better. He reaffirmed that Anna was just a friend. He needed someone to talk to. He said he never had any physical relationship with her. I believe him. So we decided to start over, to rebuild. And because I was determined to prove I wasn't neglecting him, I put in extra efforts. Every single day after work, I raced home. No more family dinners, no more extra time with my parents. I wanted to show him that he mattered. But the irony, I was always home, but he wasn't. I sat alone, waiting, night after night. And that wasn't the first time I had changed my life for him. A few years before all this, he had asked me to move out of our shared home. He told me his mother, a very traditional woman, was coming to visit and wouldn't approve of us living together before marriage. He assured me that he wanted to introduce me to her slowly, so I lived elsewhere. On weekends, I visited for a few hours whenever his mom wasn't home. Before I left, he always packed me some food. "This is my mom's cooking," he'd say. "Isn't it the best?" After 8 months, he told me that he had a great news to share. His mom decided to went back home earlier than scheduled, and I'm now able to move back in again. He said that he is still doing his best to talk to his mom, as I am a single mother with a young child, so it took him some time to convince her. If I'm being honest, I was disappointed that I had to move out of our shared home to make room for his mother. I understand that it was his mother, but it still hurts to not be a priority in his life. But I moved out because I wanted to be an understanding girlfriend. So after we restarted our relationship, it went on for about 3 months. Everything was the same. I would race home from work and he will come home at about 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I called him and asked him gently several times to come home earlier, as I missed him and I wanted to spend more time with him. But he told me that I already knew that the traffic during peak hours were bad, and if he had to leave straight away from work, he will just be stuck in traffic for at least an hour. He said that he is exhausted and he needed to take naps in the car park before driving home. And I can't just expect him to change because this is already his habit now. He is used to this lifestyle in the last 2 years. One evening, I sat on our bed and just did nothing. I watched as the sun set and the room slowly sank into darkness. And that's when it hit me. I am alone. He isn't here anymore. This relationship, it's already over. So I texted him, "We need to talk." Mind you, I need to share that if there's one amazing thing in our relationship, is that we hardly raise our voice to each other. He told me to move on, that I was dwelling on the past when we were supposed to be starting fresh. He was tired of it, tired of me wanting to talk with him again. He said that we had been talking too much about the same thing lately. I just told him that this talk is not the same thing. It's something new and something important. So he finally agreed to meet at a coffee shop after work around 7 o'clock. I arrived early at 6:45. Over an hour later, he arrived. No apology, just simply stated that he overslept in the car while having his usual nap. Looking him in the eyes, I said firmly, "I want to break up." He looked at me then said, "It must be your mom or your best friend giving you this idea." I replied, "No, this is my decision." So we broke up that night. I genuinely thought that we parted amicably. I tried my best, but I just couldn't live like that anymore, and that's why I wanted to break up. I didn't blame him. I didn't blame myself. I just believed that our time was over. There was nothing left between us. But it wasn't until months later that the final pieces of the truth surfaced. The story about his traditional mom coming to visit, that was a lie. While I had been forced to leave our home for the sake of his so-called family visit, he had been living with someone else. The meals he had praised as his mother's special cooking weren't from his mother's at all. They were from his wife, the woman he had been secretly married to all along. He had packed those meals for me, handed them to me with a smile, and said, "This is my mom's cooking, isn't it the best?" All this time, I had no idea I was living so close to a snake. I sat with that realization for a long time. Not just the betrayal, but everything it meant. How long had I been the other woman without knowing? How many moments of doubt had I ignored? Did he even have depression? Did he even have a heart attack? I finally understood something important. I don't need to make excuses for someone else's bad behavior. I don't need anyone else to validate my worth. Words of affirmation used to be one of my love languages, but now I firmly believe action speaks louder than words. Some lesson hurts, but they teach you what you should never tolerate again.